What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, CamATL, and welcome back to another video. Thank you guys for joining me as always for the Week 12 final look video. As you guys know, in the beginning of the week, we do the first look lineup, and we pretty much just talk about the guys that we're putting in the first look lineup, and we don't really go much further than that. But in this video, we break down position by position and talk about everybody that we're looking at in our player pool and why. Alright, so sit back, relax. It's going to be a little bit. Comment down below in the comment section who you think will be the highest scoring player on DraftKings and their point total for a chance to win $100. Make sure you like the video down below as well, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let's go ahead and get straight into it, man. Starting off at quarterback this week, we have several options that are in play. Alright, first of all, let's start with Derek Carr going against Atlanta. Atlanta's got a horrible secondary. Defensively, Atlanta is not good at all. It is in a dome. Okay, he's not home, but he is in a dome. And Derek Carr is only 5'7". So him and Matt Ryan in this game are both great plays. Las Vegas has a bad secondary. Atlanta has a bad secondary. Both of these guys are in great spots, and I'm not going to fault you for either one. Okay, either way you decide to go, I'm not going to fault you at all there. Okay, now if you want to get sneaky in GPPs, Patrick Mahomes is going to have probably barely no ownership. He's only 8K. I mean, not only 8K. He's 8K. That's the reason being. And he's going against Tampa Bay. I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to him in cash games, but we know the type of potential Mahomes always has. Okay? And I know for sure that they're going to struggle big time to run the ball against Tampa Bay. So Mahomes is going to have to go through the air. Yes, Tampa Bay's defense is really good, but at the same time, this is a superstar. This is Patrick Mahomes. He's got some crazy good weapons. There's nobody on this Tampa Bay secondary that can keep up with Tyreek Hill. There's nobody who matches up well with Travis Kelce. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, he's still going to get his targets open, and Mahomes could absolutely smash at low ownership. I'm expecting low ownership with the matchup and the price. So in GPPs, Patrick Mahomes is interesting. I'm not going to really go that route in cash, though. All right. Let's talk about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was limited again on Thursday. I'm expecting him to play. He came out and said it's not that big of a deal and he's fine. Going against this New England secondary is a very solid matchup for him. So another guy in GPP or in cash you can go with at 8-2. Like I said, New England secondary is not good at all. And I'm also expecting New England to be able to score on Arizona. So this could be a solid game. I wish it was in Arizona. I would like Murray more. So once again, this is another guy, him and Mahomes, I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to just because you're blowing your load at quarterback at that situation. So, and there's guys who are, what, 3,000 less that are just as good. All right. Let's talk Josh Allen going against the Chargers. Josh Allen has been very good the last few games. Okay, he's been dominating. Now he's going against a Chargers squad that's a solid secondary. Okay, defensively, the Chargers are not bad. All right, they do have one guy, Casey Hayward's been getting picked on a bit this year. He plays predominantly on the left side, so that means he's going to face Stephon Diggs a lot, and that's definitely a spot to take advantage of, seeing that John Brown's most likely going to miss. Well, actually, I believe he is going to miss for sure now. Gabriel Davis is going to be taking John Brown's spot. Against this Chargers defense, the main spots you want to take advantage of is the perimeter. So, Gabriel Davis coming in and Stephon Diggs are both great targets here against the Chargers. So, if you play Josh Allen, pair him up with Gabriel Davis, who's a 3K receiver, who's getting the start with John Brown out, and Stephon Diggs. Those are both the guys you want to prioritize with Josh Allen. All right? Justin Herbert going against Buffalo. Now, this is a solid situation here because Buffalo is horrible against the slot, and they're horrible against the left side. Okay, so the crazy part is, though, is that Josh Norman predominantly will play the right side. They could possibly. I don't see them shadowing Keenan Allen here. I don't expect a shadow situation here, so I am expecting Josh Norman to face Jalen Guyton most of the time. Sorry, my security system. Anyways, I'm expecting, you know, no shadow here out of Josh Norman, and I'm expecting Keenan Allen in the slot to tear Johnson up. Teron Johnson, however you say his name. He's giving up a 24% target share. He's getting targeted the most on that defense. He's giving up 0.38 fantasy points per target. Same thing though. Josh Norman's actually giving up more. He's getting targeted 23% and giving up 0.48 fantasy points per target. But he's not. I guess he's probably not getting targeted a ton though. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, maybe certain games he has been, but I don't know. Josh Norman, we know he's a solid cornerback, but yeah, he is a guy that's been struggling a little bit. So Keenan Allen is still obviously in play for the Chargers. So if you go Herbert, you got to pair him with Allen no matter what. All right. This Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, we don't know if this game's going to play. Not expecting it to, honestly. They shut down the facility due to COVID. Lamar Jackson tested positive. I'm not expecting this game to play. I don't see how they do. So I'm going to skip over that. I'm not going to pay much attention to that one. Who else do I want to talk about quarterback-wise? We can talk Mike Glennon for a moment. We've got Glennon. We've got Glennon as a value quarterback this week at 4-6, making the start for Jacksonville. He's going against Cleveland, a squad that gave up almost 40 to Joe Burrow. Now, Mike Glennon is not Joe Burrow, but he is super cheap and at home in Jacksonville, and this Cleveland defense, secondary at least, has not been great. Okay, so this is not a spot where you have to avoid. Like, Glennon could sneakily be decent. All right, now, if you play Glennon, I recommend that you target against the slot. So you pick on Thomas, the slot corner for Cleveland, and you play Keelan Cole. All right, so that would be my recommendation. If you go Mike Glennon, I would prefer to play the slot receiver with him, and that's Keelan Cole. All right, next up, anybody else I want to talk about? We can talk about Baker Mayfield. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield for a second. Because Mayfield's going against the Jacksonville secondary, which we know is a bad secondary. They are horrible. You're going to want to face the perimeter, so Rashard Higgins and Kadarius Hodge are going to be fantastic options here for Cleveland at cheap prices to pair up with Mayfield if you want to go that route. It will be a GPP route. I don't believe many people will be playing that. And at 5-3, that's interesting, especially against Jacksonville. So I do like that. All right, let's go ahead and just go to running back now. We've touched on everybody I'm really interested in there. Don't want to be doing this for days, you know what I mean? So at running back, Dalvin Cook is my #1 guy. He's the guy I'm going to be trying really, really hard to get. Dalvin Cook's going against Carolina. I don't need to explain this too much. Y'all get the reason. Ronald Jones almost dropped 30 against this Carolina defense. He's at home in Minnesota in a dome. Find a way to get him if you can. All right? Plain and simple. Next up, another guy that I talked about value-wise is Wayne Gallman Jr. going against Cincinnati. This is a guy that should touch the ball a good bit of times. He got 18 carries last game, along with two targets in the past game. He got a few touchdowns. He's a touchdown machine. Okay? He has 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Going against Cincinnati, a good team to run the ball against. Wayne Gallman is solid value at 5K. I could see you doing worse than that. All right. Who else? Let's talk Nick Chubb. Let's talk Nick Chubb going against Jacksonville. Now, Nick Chubb has came back and he's been solid. He's gotten over 100 rushing yards the last 2 games straight. He's getting 20 carries on average. Now he gets to go against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has done an okay job versus the run, so I normally prefer to take the passing game against Jacksonville, but at the same time, is Glennon going to be able to score consistently to keep this game close to where, you know what I mean, where the pass game is needed? Cleveland could possibly get up here against Glennon and them, and then use a lot of Chubb, a lot of Kareem Hunt. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that route. If I had to guess a game script, I would guess that Cleveland gets up and probably runs a lot with Chubb, but the Jacksonville defense has done a great job. All right, I will say that. They have done a great job against the run. What else do we got? We have... All right, we have a situation in New England. We have Rex Burkhead's going to miss, okay? What does that do? That gives James White a big bump in this offense, and he is going to be a big target for Cam Newton. All right, plain and simple. James White in this last game got 9 targets in the past game. And now with Rex Burkhead out, he's going to be probably one of Cam Newton's favorite targets. I mean, this is a guy he can rely on, you know, to dump off the ball to if he gets in trouble, and, you know, he likes to do that a lot. So James White's in a great spot here against Arizona. I really, really like him at 4-5. You can do much worse than him on DraftKings where it's full point PPR, especially with Burkhead out. What else? Who else is at the like a good outside of that? I haven't had a ton. I mean, obviously you could play Josh Jacobs against the Atlanta run defense, even though they've been okay versus the run this season. So yeah, I mean, my favorite options is going to be, I really like James White on DK. I love Dalvin Cook, Wayne Gallman Jr. If you believe in that Cleveland game script, you believe Cleveland gets up against Jacksonville, Nick Chubb should ball out. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting. That's like the core of guys that I really, really like this week. So yeah, I like that. All right, next up, let's go to wide receiver. Let's talk wide receivers real quick. Now, if you go Patrick Mahomes, pair him up with Tyreek Hill. Don't give a fuck about the matchup. Pair Tyreek Hill up with Patrick Mahomes. In GPP, that's an interesting way to go. Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. Stack it up because nobody really is going to do that. So I just wanted to mention that real quick before we get into it. Now, on top of loving Dalvin Cook, there's a lot to like about the Minnesota receivers too. Adam Thielen is still a question mark. If Adam Thielen misses, you're going to want Justin Jefferson. Plain and simple, Justin Jefferson's 6'3". If Adam Thielen misses, he's going to be fantastic because at the end of the day, too, these perimeter Minnesota receivers are in fantastic spots against Carolina. All right, Carolina struggles against perimeter receivers, especially Dante Jackson on the right side. All right, he'll be seeing a lot of Justin Jefferson in this one, and he gets targeted 24% of the time. Gives up 0.47 fantasy points per route run. So almost half a point per route ran. So Justin Jefferson's a fantastic option. I definitely like him a ton. Outside of that, you can go Antonio Brown as well as another fantastic option at receiver going against Charvarius Ward. He's a solid choice. We're not going to get Pittsburgh-Baltimore. I was interested in getting some like Willie Snead in this matchup as like a cheap, low-owned guy hopefully. But I talked about Stephon Diggs. Really like him with John Brown being out. Him and Gabriel Davis are solid options on the perimeter there in that one. But yeah, Beasley's going to be solid too. But mainly I prefer perimeter. So Stephon Diggs is going to be fantastic. I like him. And Gabriel Davis is only $3K. Paying attention to Adam Thielen because, of course, him and Jefferson are both in play here in this matchup, like I said already. Who else do I want to bring up? I brought up Keelan Cole, didn't I? When we were talking about Jacksonville. If you want to play any Jacksonville guys, Keelan Cole's the guy to play, especially if you go Glennon. Pair him up with Keelan Cole. He's a solid option. Let's talk about DJ Moore, because DJ Moore is going to match up with Cameron Dantzler, who gets targeted 21% and gives over a half a point per target, okay, per route ran. So I love the matchup for DJ Moore here in this one. I think DJ Moore is going to go off against Minnesota. And if you have Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, or you just have Dalvin Cook, it's a good idea to run it back with a Carolina receiver. So DJ Moore and also Curtis Samuel in the slot is a very solid option as well. So both those guys are great options. Robbie Anderson's good, but out of the three matchups, Robbie Anderson has the worst matchup. So I do like DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel in this one to run back any Minnesota love that you have. All right. Michael Thomas got targeted a ton with their new quarterback last week, and I'm expecting it to continue at 7-4. He's going to be highly leaned on here. I mean, so he's a solid option as well, but you are having to pay for him at 7-4. Who else? Mike Evans in a good matchup, especially if you're playing Pat Mahomes and you're going that way in GPPs. Mike Evans is a solid option to go against Kansas City. He's going to be facing, let me see who he's going to face off against most likely. Probably Rashad Breeland, mostly. Breeland has done a really good job this season, only getting targeted 15% of the time, giving up 0.21 fantasy points per target. So honestly, Antonio Brown has one of the best matchups going against Charvarius Ward, giving up 0.40 per target. So Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin actually, number-wise, stat-wise, if you break it down, those two guys have the best matchups for Tampa Bay. So if you do play the Kansas City guys, or even if you don't, I still love Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin this week. Both of them are great plays. I really like Antonio at 5.7. That's a good price for him. So I do like that. Him and Godwin is 6K. So both of those guys I prefer over Mike Evans. All right. So if you're going to get some Tampa Bay, whether it's just because you want the matchup and you're not getting any run back, or if you play Pat Mahomes on the other end, completely understand going Antonio Brown for sure. Love Antonio Brown. All right, next up, who else? Keenan Allen, obviously, every week is in play. Let's talk about okay, so I mentioned Gabriel Davis as solid value. He's going to have a solid straight-up matchup, and he's only 3K with John Brown being out of the lineup. Now, when Gabriel Davis has gotten his opportunities for this Buffalo offense, he has proven that he is an electric player, and I believe that he could have a very solid game here. And at only 3K, you can do worse than this value right here. On top of that, I'm expecting the Chargers offense. Herbert's been playing great. I'm expecting that game to stay close. So Gabriel Davis, it's not like Buffalo's going to turn to the run a ton. They're still going to be throwing. So I like Gabriel Davis a lot here. All right. And then obviously Stephon Diggs as well with John Brown out. That's another solid option as well. Anybody else? Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. Oh, yes. So early on in the week, I believe I talked about Henry Ruggs against Atlanta. So I am mistaken. I looked more into it. And in this matchup, Nelson Agholor is the one that's going to be in the best matchup going against Denard. Okay, Nelson Agholor plays majority of his snaps on the left side. Okay, so that in turn, he is going to be facing a ton of Denard, who gets targeted 30% of the time and gives up 0.41 fantasy points per target. Okay, so we already know Atlanta gives up a ton of points to receivers. Well, that's great news because Denard gives it up, and Nelson Agholor is going to be seeing him more than anybody else on this team. So I think Nelson Agholor is a fantastic option for Las Vegas, and he's only 4.9. Okay, so I love Nelson Agholor, one of my favorite options on the slate when it comes to just sole matchup-wise. This game is in a dome, especially if you have Derek Carr. Nelson Agholor is a fantastic option. I think he's going to destroy Denard. Everybody has. So Nelson Agholor should too, and he's been getting some good targets in this offense. So he just got 9 targets last game. Expect another big game out of Nelson Agholor here against Denard. All right, but in no way am I saying Agholor is the only play. I mean, there's other options as well. All 3 of these cornerbacks for Atlanta, Oliver, Denard, Terrell, these guys are all giving up good amount of fantasy points per target. They're just not getting targeted by offenses as much as Denard's being targeted. To put it in perspective, Oliver, the slot corner for Atlanta, is getting targeted 19% of the time. A.J. Terrell, the rookie on the left side, is getting targeted 18%. Denard, 30%. So offenses obviously know where the weak spot is for this Atlanta secondary, and Agholor is going to see a ton of him, okay? Now, if not Agholor, Ruggs is great too. Ruggs is going to play some. Ruggs will probably see Denard a little bit too. It's not like Agholor's only going to see Denard and nobody else is going to see Denard. So the perimeter receivers are in the best matchup. So Agholor and Ruggs are both in play. If you want a full stack Las Vegas receiving core, it would be Derek Carr with Ruggs and Agholor. Both outside guys are in fantastic spots. Both of them are going to see some of Denard. Agholor is going to see more of Denard, so he's the preferred play. But Ruggs is also a solid option as well, and Ruggs is only 4.3. So you're getting it's crazy the pricing on these guys. You're getting some guys in fantastic matchups at really primo situations. Let's go to tight end. Not going to keep up too much more of your time. We're almost to the 20-minute mark. At tight end, obviously Darren Waller's fantastic against Atlanta. I don't need to explain that much. That's a great option. Rob Gronkowski against Kansas City, if you want to go that route. One thing we do know, if we look at that game, we do know that Kansas City's going to score. Okay, they will score. It doesn't matter who the defense is. Kansas City will score. Patrick Mahomes is just too ridiculous, okay? So we know Tampa Bay is going to have to throw, and this game's going to be a shootout. We know that, right? So with that being said, Rob Gronkowski at 4.4 getting you exposure to that Tampa Bay side. Antonio Brown is my favorite overall target for the Tampa Bay side, and I'll probably have a ton of Antonio Brown. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, Antonio's looked great. Tom Brady and him obviously have the chemistry. I believe they're living together. So, I mean, yeah, and the matchup period is good, and you know Tom Brady sees exactly what I see here. You know what I mean? I'm not the only one in the world seeing that Antonio Brown's facing Charvarius Ward, who's given up 0.40 fantasy points per target. Okay, so him and Godwin are in great spots. Tom Brady knows that, and he's definitely going to exploit it. What else? Travis Kelce, if you do go the Mahomes route, I talked about Travis Kelce. If you do play Patrick Mahomes, he's fine. Him and Hill should be played if you want. In GPP, I'm going to say this again. In GPP, I'm totally cool with you going Mahomes paired with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and I believe we have enough value for you to actually pull that off. Are you going to be able to get Dalvin Cook? Probably not. But you have, in GPP, you don't have to play Dalvin Cook. In GPP, the ownership on Dalvin Cook's going to be high. So in GPP, instead of going Dalvin, maybe, Christian McCaffrey's out. Maybe go Mike Davis and hope that he plays more snaps. Even though he did play some good snaps last week and did well, it kind of was frustrating in the beginning of that Carolina game to see Mike Davis getting, you know, they're handing the ball to some unknown guys who just came up onto the team more than they're giving it Mike Davis in the beginning. And then they finally got Mike Davis rolling, but still, it's frustrating. Anyways, outside of that, you can play Jack Doyle. He's okay. He's 2.5, ridiculously cheap, and he gets looked at in the red zone, so he's an option. Hunter Henry. Mainly, I'm targeting. I really like Darren Waller and Travis Kelce at the top. The tight end spot is really horrible this week, so I'm gonna try my hardest to get one of these two, honestly. Okay, preferably Waller, but Kelce is solid too because his ownership will be much lower. All right, and then defenses. I really don't give a shit here. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, you can go the Giants. I love the Giants against Finley. You could go the Jets D against Tua if you believe that Tua's not going to step it up ever and you think he's can't throw down the field. I believe Tua is going to be solid, and he just needs some time to, you know, get comfortable. And this Jets defense right here, this is a spot. All right, speaking of that, I didn't touch on that much, but I do love this Miami offense. Okay, we're not going to have Jakeem Grant either. So Devontae Parker is going to see a ton of targets. Speaking of that, who is taking, because of Grant being out, who is going to be, I'm expecting Grant to be out at least. He was a limited participant Thursday, so keep an eye on it, see how that goes for Friday. If Jakeem Grant misses, I do like Jakeem Grant, period. If Jakeem Grant plays, I do like Grant a lot because at the end of the day, when it comes to the individual matchups here and the stats behind this, Jakeem Grant has the best matchup against Lamar Jackson. I talked about Lamar Jackson last week. He struggles a lot. He gets targeted 18%, which is the most on this Jets secondary. Gives up 0.57 fantasy points per route run, which is, I believe, the highest on the entire slate. So he gives it up a lot. And it's a fantastic situation here to take advantage of that. So, yeah, I definitely like Jakeem Grant if he plays because he's only 3.7, and the matchup could not get any better against this beat-up Jets secondary. All right, plain and simple. Now, another spot I wanted to talk about, and then I'll get back to defense because I missed a few things that I want to talk about. Arizona, okay? Now, Arizona's going against New England. The best matchup here in this one is going to be the slot. Okay, whoever takes over the slot for Larry Fitzgerald, as you guys know, Larry Fitzgerald is going to miss. Okay, so depending on who takes his spot, he has COVID. So it looks like most likely Andy Isabella probably is going to get a good amount of work. And I want to make sure I mention him because the slot receiver for Arizona is the best matchup here. So at 3K, Andy Isabella. Andy Isabella is going to get a lot of work in the slot here. If you guys remember week 3, he got 4 targets and 2 touchdowns. I would not be surprised to see at least 1 touchdown here against the horrible Jonathan Jones. This is where New England struggles big time against the slot. Slot gets targeted 29%. Well, Jonathan Jones gets targeted 29% of the time, gives up 0.51 fantasy points, which is by far the worst on this New England secondary. Probably going to see Stephon Gilmore shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. Probably see J.C. Jackson shadow Christian Kirk. Both of those guys are solid, so expect a lot of Andy Isabella. So matchup-wise, I would not be surprised in GPPs if you're going that Mahomes route. If you're spending up and you're going Kyler Murray, Isabella is a 3K guy option. Gabriel Davis, another fantastic cheap option. So these guys are guys that you need to consider for sure in GPPs especially. I'm even okay with Isabella in cash. I mean, with Fitz missing and this matchup against the slot here, I mean, come on. I mean, the reason we played Randall Cobb last week and he caught that touchdown, and if he wouldn't have got hurt, he would have gone crazy. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and that's the name of the game in DFS. Sometimes things happen out of your control, and it is what it is. But in this situation, I mean, Andy Isabella, slot receiver, same situation. You got to expect this team knows that, okay? And if this shoulder is bothering Kyler Murray, expect him to rely on the slot a little bit. Those little short routes to Andy Isabella in the slot. So I really like it, and like I said, the outside matchups are tough. Stephon Gilmore's a solid corner. J.C. Jackson's a solid corner. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is talented enough to beat it regardless, but I do expect a lot of Andy Isabella in the slot. So, all right, and then defense, like I said, I do like the Giants D against Finley. If you're not a believer in the new quarterback for New Orleans, you can play the Broncos D. I don't see why you'd do it, but hey, they're only 2-2. The Vikings defense against Carolina. I love the Giants. So yeah, good luck, y'all. GreenlightDFS.com to join the squad, man. Thank you guys for watching. As always, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And make sure you comment down below who you think is going to be the highest scoring player on DraftKings this week. Their name and their point total for a chance at $100. Good luck, y'all. Play the matchups. As always, don't just rely on these sites. These sites just kind of put up, a lot of times they'll project gut plays higher, and sometimes their gut can be bad. So take advantage. The way that you should be using these popular sites projections is to know where the ownership's going to be and find where to be different. Okay, that is what you use that for. Okay, plain and simple. My projections at Greenlight DFS, the projections I put on there, I go over stats and I adjust projections over their actual individual matchup stats. I don't just wing it. You feel what I'm saying? So check out the optimizer, Greenlight Optimizer, and let's get this money this week. It's going to be a big one, man. We're due. All these injuries we've been dealing with, man. Not this time. All right, let's get it. Peace. I'm out.